Hi, friend. Welcome back to the Better Events Podcast. I'm Logan Clements, one of your co hosts. And in this week's episode, we are recapping the 2025 Better Events Conference. We are taking a look back at some of our favorite moments, some of our lessons learned, and we have a sustainability audit from friend of the pod, Alycia Drube. So you're not going to want to miss it, as we have some great lessons learned, both for our attendees, but also if you're someone who creates or hosts your own events, we have some in there for you as well. So enjoy.
Welcome to the Better Events Podcast. Join two event strategists, Logan Clements and Mary Davidson, who believe we can all create, host, and attend better events. In this podcast, you will learn about event strategy and actions that you can use today as an event host, planner, or manager. Hear directly from the people who are creating innovative and inspiring events today and tomorrow, and grow your business along the way. Now, let's get started, and thanks for listening to the Better Events Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Better Events Podcast. We are so excited that you're with us in this new year, and we are excited to be recapping the 2025 Better Events Conference today. We're also doing a sustainability audit, so there's lots going on in this episode that we are excited about. So thank you, everybody that supported the conference, attended. We've had lots of you reach out and say you want to attend next year, and we're so excited to hear that as well. We had our virtual day on October 1st, and then we had our in-person day on December 18th in Seattle. So this is our official recap episode that we've been hinting at for a while now. This is where we share our reflections, our lessons learned, and the audit that we mentioned with our conference partner and friend of the pod, Alycia Drube. So we're excited to get into it.
Yeah. So, Mary, I guess I'll kick off the first question, throwing this to you. Overall, how are you feeling about our third Better Events Conference?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling energized, I would say. We've had, a few weeks to think about it and just kind of feel the feelings and all the things. And as an event that we host, and we talk about this every year for listeners, if you host any of your own events, it's a different feeling. There's a different lift and responsibility and all of the things. And so with that comes probably a little bit more emotion behind it too. So I am personally feeling really good. Still tired a little bit, not going to lie, but motivated for the future of it, which I don't know if I could. Last year I had more questions about what does this look like? Whereas this time I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm excited to see what this can become. So that's me. Logan, how about you? How are you feeling about our third Better Events Conference?
I think I was really happy. I was really, really happy with how it came together. I was pleasantly surprised, I would say, by how many folks were interested in the in-person day. We had a big influx of tickets that got sold for in-person only in like the 2 weeks prior to our event on December 18th. So not great for other event hosts out there. If you're feeling stressed about your ticket sales, just know it will come in those final days. But yes, I think I was really, the day itself went really well, and people were just really positive. And I think a lot of our goals that we set for the conference were achieved. And that always, to your point, Mary, it's a lot of work to host your own event. And so that always makes it feel like the work was worth it. So I feel like, yeah, overall, incredibly positive. We talk about this being our love letter to the industry. And I think we really stood by that in the event that we put forward, and just overall kind of on cloud nine.
Absolutely. And we love hearing feedback, comments, takeaways. So we try to listen to what people are saying when they're at the events. We also do a survey. So if you completed the survey, we hear lots of things. But if you haven't attended the conference and you are just curious to figure out the behind the scenes kind of how all this goes, you can listen back to our planning episodes that we have, where we discussed through the process how we were planning the Better Events Conference for the virtual day and the in-person day. But also we'd want to share some of those takeaways with you right now. And so we heard lots of different things, but thinking back to, it feels like so long ago, Logan, to the virtual day of the conference on October 1st. Lots of great feedback and takeaways there. I think for both of us, right, Logan, one of our favorite sessions was about the AI sessions, just so many learnings and tangible things that we could take and use pretty much immediately. And I've still heard people reference some of the things that they've learned from those sessions and other settings. And so it's so cool to hear. And I loved it as well, which I wouldn't say I don't normally love AI stuff as much. Like, it takes me a little bit to get into it, but I was in it and I was learning and I loved it. So those are some of the takeaways that I agree with, but I also heard from other people.
Yeah, I think a lot of our different sessions got shout outs both virtually and in person from our like post event feedback form. I feel like a lot of people love the conversation starters, the group consulting, the lightning talk. I mean, it's not. I would say that we nailed it 1,000% with our content, but I'm pretty dang happy with how we did with our content based on hitting the different things. And I think one of my favorite comments I saw was from an attendee saying that even as an introvert, they were pleasantly surprised that they felt seen and supported and had space to kind of share their insights in the different sessions. Because I think one big thing, and you'll see with our messaging, if you currently go to our bettereventspod.com/conference website, is we are very much going to lean in. I feel like, Mary, in the future of like this being an unconference and not just in name. I think a lot of other groups and conferences out there are calling their things unconference, but like it's very much less us talking at you. We do have some experts in the room, but it is not speaker with slides talking at you. And it's very much like leaning in with like peer learning and peer workshops and putting people together to have some of those organic connections come out. Because I think personally, there's already other events that are doing the single expert talking at you and you get to learn from them. But what I normally am craving is that engagement and like mind melding with other attendees. So, Mary, do you think we kind of nailed that for this year?
I think so. And I think, yeah, it's becoming, because it's such a new event, but it's becoming that, I think people are knowing it for that, which is cool to, I don't know that we necessarily expected that, but it's cool to see that happening. I know there was a team of folks that attended because they were, I mean, probably many reasons, but one of them was because they wanted to see what unconventional things that were happening so that they could take them and implement them in their events, which is such an honor, that they're like, let's go get ideas from the Better Events Conference because we do weird stuff. But I love it. I feel like very happy that that's a thing that they're wanting to see and learn and that we can try. And that's a safe enough space for us to try, acknowledging that not everything works, but this year feels like a lot of it worked.
Yeah, I think I was very, very proud with kind of how it came together. And I think the other note that we have in here that people shared, some written and some more verbally at the end of our in-person day in Seattle, was that people wanted 2 days in person. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel like I put my hands on my knees and was like, oh dear gosh, because like that's a lot of. I mean, it takes a lot of work to put together one day. And I think this is something that Mary and I, we can't necessarily promise what 26 will look like, but we did offer this year, or in 2025, we had a pre-dinner the night before, and then we had the actual event day. And then the day after, we did a food tour for folks that was like an optional add-on led by a chef around the Pike Place Market, which was really fun. So we kind of already had a little bit of like ancillary activities happening on the day before and day after, but I am so thrilled that people want 2 days of content. I think we need to figure out if that aligns with like our goals as the hosts, but biggest compliment, I guess, to hear from people that they just want more.
Exactly. And that was even represented in other ways. There was some folks who mentioned wanting to do like the group consulting virtually every month. And we're like, oh my gosh, there's still more that people are asking for, even in addition to what Logan just said. And so, yeah, it's an honor to hear it. And I love it. I think Logan and I are like, oh my, like what you said, like, what's the reality of what we can actually accomplish? I don't know, but it's nice to leave people wanting more versus them being like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad this day is over. So maybe some attendees felt like that. I don't know, but that's not necessarily the feedback that we got either. So it's interesting to see.
Yeah. And I guess thinking, our original, like probably still one of our top 10 podcast episodes is all about finding your event North Star. And for us with the conference, it was our main goals were honestly to like simplify and streamline things for us as organizers on the back end, and just remind us that we were creating this very unique event that is different from what other people are offering. And then we wanted to give both virtual and in-person a try. But as you notice, in 24, we had those days back to back. And wow, listeners, I was so happy they were not back to back, because as Mary mentioned, they both take a lot of energy out of us in a great way. But I loved having that in October and then getting to retool some stuff and then do it again in December. So Mary, how do you feel like we did on those goals of simplifying and streamlining?
Same. I mean, I feel like we added a lot. So if we're talking about simplifying, we added a lot of things. Like you did just mention on the in-person day, we added these other activities that were optional, but there were a lot of things that you could choose to participate in or not. So I feel like we kind of simplified, but what I think the big takeaway is with what you're saying and what I was thinking is that we feel better at the end of it. And that was like Logan just mentioned this as one of our goals, but as you all are listening to this, like, behind the behind the scenes scoop of creating an event is that we want it to feel energizing to us as hosts as well. And that's a huge motivation. And so, yeah, I feel like that absolutely was the goal that you mentioned, Logan, and that was more accomplished this year because of what you just said, because we split it up and tried to do these different things. And so, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think from like some of the logistics, I will slightly disagree with you because I do think we
Blah, blah,
simplified
blah.
it. We had less speakers between both virtual and in person. We had less
That's
speakers, which is less people we have to communicate with, questions to chase and some of that. And yes, to your point, we did add things, but I do feel like everything had some intention to it that we had in 24. But again, every year we've done this, I feel like we've learned more of what's like worth the extra effort and what maybe was like, okay, not as important. I also know like personally, I think there were certain things that I was like, I knew I had to make sure things got done, but also other little things I was like, this is a me thing. I'm gonna have to just let it go. So and that I would like to say is progress when it
yeah,
comes to
for
running
sure.
this.
That's big progress. Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we think about some of our favorite moments from the conference, what goes along with this is that we already mentioned we tried some new things that we were worried about, and we really did. Like, not providing lunch is scary, but providing an alternate experience that Logan knows, this scared me the most. I brought it up every meeting. I'm like, are you sure we shouldn't do? And not putting it on Logan. I continued to bring up the conversation so we could keep talking about it. And I feel like it worked. We both went in lunch groups and had a great time, but that was one thing that was like scary, but it also became one of my favorite moments of the day to be able to get out and do something different and get some fresh air, different environment. People seem to like it as well. Small group discussions where it wasn't super loud, like that is what lunch provided. And I think that's so cool. So it was definitely one of my favorite moments. And then Logan, you also had a wonderful idea about trying new things with our lightning talks and doing some different topics around that, which I feel like landed really well as well. So I don't know if that was one of your favorite moments or what you want to share there.
Yeah, it's like picking your favorite child. I feel like I was so heavily involved on the content side. I feel like it was like they all were my favorite. We will admit, listeners, if you came with us to the in-person day, we know conversation starters got very loud in the space that we were in. We have made notes and we're figuring out how we can adjust that for moving forward for next year's conference. But yes, it was also one of those things. There were so many. I feel like for that, I was like, it's like annoying that it's so loud, and especially if you're someone who's like, it's kind of overwhelming to hear loud noises. We understand that was a lot, but also I'm like, it's also good that people are talking. So it's kind of it's the give and the take. So that was one that I know we've taken as a note, but my favorite, I think I loved the fish throw that we did. That was our surprise and delight instead of walk and talks after lunch. We met at Pike Place Market after we'd gone out of the room for our lunches. We met there. It was not necessarily the nicest weather day. It was a little cold, a little windy. There was a little bit of rain, so I wish I could have controlled that. But instead of us walking around, we actually had the Pike Place Fish Market. One of the owners spoke to our group. 5 of our attendees actually got to get behind the counter and I catch the iconic fish that they throw at the Pike Place Market. And then all our attendees got to go home with a little can of king salmon, which is their really nice wild caught salmon. So that one was really fun for me. I think hard when the weather was turning some folks away to go back to the room, but they still got salmon. Don't worry, guys. But that was fun. We always we've talked about it here on the pod. I love a surprise and delight. And that was one that I know I was really excited for. I will admit the walk from Pike Place Market back to our venue was a little long. So again, a note for future. But it was really a big goal of ours, I feel like, was for folks who traveled in and flew in. They felt like they actually got to see some of Seattle and not just the inside of whatever room we did the conference in. And I feel like we achieved that. So I'm very, very, very proud of that, Mary.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we have so many favorite things. I'll just choose one more favorite thing because there's so many. One of my other favorite things though, was the like opportunity for little breaks. And I know that that sounds like a weird thing to highlight, but I think that we were really intentional last year and this year with when we were putting breaks in the schedule. Obviously, sometimes sessions go over and all of that. But what I noticed happening during the breaks is that people were like really connecting with each other in a different way. Like if we look back at the pictures, I'm assuming it's folks that weren't sitting next to each other because they're kind of off in different areas of the venue talking. Um, and to me, that feels like really authentic connection time because we're not asking them to go talk to their neighbor. Instead, that they're just like taking that break time to actually get to know the people. And it seems like, I don't know, it seems like maybe everybody met almost everybody in the room, which is incredibly cool. I'm like so happy about that.
Yeah, no, I think we definitely leaned into that with the authentic conversations for folks. And we had about 50 people were in the room, which is more than last year, which is exciting. But I'd say a lesson learned for me was we were pretty much at capacity with that room for doing that kind of like seated classroom style. And again, great problem to have. It was one when we booked the space. We had about 35 people in 2024. So we just weren't sure. 35 probably would have felt a little too roomy. 50 was a little tight. But I loved our Labor Temple venue. I thought it was gorgeous and had a lot like very minimal what we had to do to make it look good. It had that kind of sleek look and had that classroom style. That area got a little loud, but it had a bunch of nice soft seating for people for those breakouts. And as you mentioned, Mary, during breaks to kind of get away, in addition to some meeting space upstairs for folks who had to like pop out and take a call. So, yeah, I think that was we have a couple of our lessons learned of like writing stuff down, but I do think our secret sauce with the conference is that it is a very interactive. You as an attendee need to be ready to come and talk to people. We had a couple anecdotes of folks that were like surprised that that was what was being asked of them. And I know some were guests of speakers we had, or just again, were partners who'd never come to the conference before, but that seems to be something that you'll see us continue to lean into in the future. But Mary, any other lessons learned you want to share?
Yes, there's one more I just wanted to call out, which once again, from the planning perspective, we hope you will all appreciate this when you're listening, is that we are dealing with some different audiences. And so that's something that I think is something we're still learning. And like Logan was saying, kind of making note and implementing into future years. I don't think there's any problem. In fact, I think it's amazing. At the end of the day, we're all event professionals and there's so much that we have in common, but we have folks that are attending virtually that live maybe everywhere. We have folks that are coming in person because they live in Seattle or because they're flying in, which was so cool, by the way. And thank you for everyone who took the time and money to come in person to the conference from far away. And then we have people who listen to the podcast and folks who honestly probably don't. And so it's just kind of an interesting mix. But like I said, at the end of the day, I think we absolutely have plenty in common with the fact that we do events and that there's so much to connect on. But it's something that I know I want to think about just a little bit more, how we can appeal to all of you wonderful people.
Yes. And we'll definitely be sharing more lessons. I feel like I'll come out in future podcast episodes when we talk about different themes, but we teased it. And now let's get into our interview we had with Alycia, who did our sustainability audit for the conference.
All right, next up, we are so excited to invite our guest on today. Alycia is a sponsor of the Better Events Conference. She's also a friend of the podcast. You may have heard her before. So I'm going to pass it to Logan to introduce Alycia more.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. And Alycia Drube is the founder of Positive Impact Event Consulting and a certified sustainable event professional. She helps event businesses turn sustainability into second nature. She equips planners and teams with practical tools and strategies that make it easy to deliver greener events while strengthening their businesses. Alycia's mission is to inspire actionable change and a vision for a more sustainable future in the events industry. And Alycia was with us in person for our in-person day in Seattle. So if you attended the Better Events Conference, you might remember meeting Alycia. But Alycia, we're going to turn it over to you. How did we do from the sustainability side for our in-person day of the 2025 Better Events Conference?
Well, let me hit straight back. How do you think you did?
Oh, no.
Put us on the spot.
Yeah, we had a call in advance to kind of review the audit documentation and give you an idea of what I would be looking at, but it was too late to change all of your plans from things that had been planned. You couldn't have gone super sustainable since then. I'm going to give you a letter grade, but how do you think coming to the end of my audit you guys did?
Logan, I would say I think that we were just we were more mindful of what we were doing. How did we do? Better than we would have if we weren't thinking about it.
I want to guess the letter grade. I'm not going to lie. My like little achiever in me. I want to say we did a B+ is what I would give us, because
That's pretty good.
I feel like we did okay for like what we had going on. I think there's a lot of stuff we like didn't have that is usually the big sustainability culprits, which is what I would think about. And I feel like it was really helpful for us to have Alycia in mind when we were making the small last minute decisions of little things we could change, and being like, we have an accountability partner who's going to be checking if we did the more sustainable option. So I feel like we tried to be intentional. Like there wasn't a lot of stuff that just got thrown in that involved a lot of paper, unsustainable things that we just did just because it seemed fun. I feel like we had a lot of intention behind things.
I'm going to say B- just to be negative.
All right. Fine, Mary. I say B+,
Well,
Mary says B-.
Okay, then I have amazing news for you, because I'm giving you an A-.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Woo.
Between the fact that it is a small event and you two are very naturally mindful, even before your accountability partner comes along, you did really well by picking a vendor partner with your venue that already has some pretty good practices in place, by being minimalistic on a lot of what was going on. You pretty much rocked it out. A lot of the things that you were dinged on my audit were things that you almost couldn't avoid in order to stay practical and reasonable for a small scale conference. So I've got my notes up here. Do you have something in mind that was like, okay, this is definitely something we got dinged on?
I mean, we talked about this, I think, in our and I can't remember if we talked about it in our consulting, but it was like, we know we want to do snacks for attendees. And so we are probably having more waste, less sustainable by doing individually packaged snacks. But it was one of those kind of like, did it net out that then when we opened it was individual bags of chips versus one big bag of chips, that then if people like, our food waste was way less because we could send people home with the extras, and like the shelf life of all that stuff is a lot longer. And so it was I know that was one that I was like, I can't negate it at all. Yeah. But I was really proud, and I think I took not a very artsy photo, but I was really impressed. We put in our note before you go for people to bring a reusable water bottle and a reusable coffee cup, but we also offered cups if they needed it. And I think I just had a visual of people's on the table. Like I felt like a good amount of people brought something, and maybe a lot of people naturally do that in Seattle already, but I felt proud that it felt like I saw more than I would normally see at a conference.
The only thing that I would add is, maybe this is such a small thing, but like the napkins were on my mind. Just the napkins. Because we brought some napkins because I had them, and I was like, we should bring some napkins. And then we used so many napkins that day. That's something that I noticed, because we had to end up using the venue's napkins and they had to keep refilling them. And I was like, we got napkin happy because we didn't have plates, because we were trying to like save on other things. So I don't know. There's a whole napkin situation in my brain going on, but I don't know.
Yeah. That's a good attention to detail, though, for sure, for sure. Okay, so before I go dive in, I just remembered, we'll review the way I talk about sustainability is the 4 pillars of sustainability. So it's environmental, social, and community, which is akin to DEI idea, depending where you're from, and personal health and well-being, and economic. And I think looking at everything on the whole, you two are naturally, as business people, conference builders, podcast managers, you naturally drift toward social and economic sustainability as really important to you, because you're nurturing your community, and you don't have a huge corporation funding everything you do, and you have to make smart business choices. And the great thing about focusing on economic sustainability is that it does force you to make more every type of sustainable choices. And so that's what happened. And I agree with you, Logan, completely, that it was a little bit of a catch-22 to have packaged food. Having more plastic coming on site because of that is nobody's favorite, but I completely agree that on the trade-off, reducing food waste, making sure that anything that wasn't used could be used in another context. It also helped you to be able to serve the community better and having more accessible food options. So you could have vegan and gluten-free and, lots of different dietary needs covered without having to like pay tons of extra for catering and those sorts of things. So I think on the level, it comes out to be a really good choice. And if you had tried to cater for all of those things, your economics would have really suffered. I'll have to be double checking on the napkins. It is, conventionally having a washable plate is a preferable option. In a small environment like that, we did have some kind of like sticky and sweets kind of snacks. So I'm not too surprised that, and like making sure that your papers and your notes and things don't get wet on the communal tables. Everybody was probably being conscientious. So, from that perspective, there's nothing too wrong with napkins. And I'm getting confirmation from the venue of how much they are able to sort their waste, because that's the other way that you deal with that, is napkins are more compostable. So it's not the worst possible thing to happen. So let's see. That food for me was one of the top things as well that I was kind of keeping my eye out for. And that's an area where a lot of events make a big impact, whether they realize it or not. And then let's see my notes here. Another big one that affects everyone at the event was our badging. Ooh, it's out of reach, or I would grab my badge. Your sponsor for the badges was Event Badger, who we love. And that was a great, fun alternative. We had wooden badges, which is another way to eliminate plastic on site. We love this. What did you guys think about working with them second year in a row? Wooden badges.
We love them. There was more color this year than there was last year, which is different. And we get good feedback on the badges, I would say, Logan. Just people like them because they're different, right? Different.
Yeah, like I will admit, I mean, we ran the conference, so I'm probably going to keep more things than maybe the average attendee, but I am notorious if I get my plastic badge, very rarely do I actually like keep it as a keepsake, because we have so many of them but I'm like, the wooden one, it is something that's different that I'm more likely to hold on to as a memento. So I don't know if attendees are doing that, but we do get a lot of compliments on them.
Yeah, they're really cool. They are something I want to point out. This is absolutely no negativity on either you or Event Badger, but as one of the areas for sustainability that people are likely to trip up is thinking that wooden badges are compostable or green waste available, which is actually not the case. They are an amazing win for not bringing plastic on site, but right now they don't have the resources at Event Badger to be able to use ink that is compostable. So you can't say, and you didn't, but one couldn't say if they use those badges that it's green for compostable reasons, but they are a big win. I love them. Using cotton lanyards, always a big win. So I really loved that. I'm always happy to see an alternative, because my personal thing at home even is reduce plastic first and foremost. I feel like that's the easiest thing to make the choice to reduce plastic in what I bring home, what I purchase, what I use. That's pretty easy to at least like side by side go, do I go plastic? Do I not go plastic? Your event communications were so good. Coming back to what you had said about bringing your own cups, bringing your own bottles, that worked out great. I agree. It was at least 50% of the room. It looked really good. And I think it makes the experience better. So I think as we start to practice that as a community of event professionals, we'll start getting into that more and more. And then the last thing I want to cover is the amazing success that using the local area on the agenda brought us, which is that it brought us almost every area of sustainability. We were getting outside fresh air time, which is great for our personal health. We were getting walking and exercise, also personal health, getting some sightseeing, which is always so fun. It gave us variety and lots of time for our lunch, reducing that pressure on our schedule. And in doing so, it was also supporting a ton of local businesses. We spread out to lots of different lunch venues. We got to visit the Pike Place Fish Market, which was so cool, and support them and their business. And everybody got their little souvenir from the market, which was so cool. And so that one portion of the agenda of going outside for lunch served so well. Also from a sustainability environmental standpoint, we were able to walk, so we didn't have to bus to a new location. We're not adding emissions. Even if somebody decided to hop a scooter or something like that, we would have been doing really well on taking advantage of the local economy and the local area while not adding to the emissions. So both as an attendee and as your sustainability auditor, I loved that. That was such a good element of the agenda for sustainability. So yeah, super, super great feedback on all those areas and able to tick those multiple areas. And like I always say, we love to double dip. If you can get environmental sustainability and social or health sustainability at the same time, then you're just reaching your goals faster.
Yeah,
so
I
that
think
was awesome.
I want to jump in for just listeners. I mean, this was one of the parts of the agenda I think Mary and I were probably the most nervous about, just because it was different. And it's great. I mean, I'm glad to hear we're getting positive feedback, just anecdotally, but also with your background in sustainability. But I know just even myself, I feel like I loved getting out of the room, even as the event host, and just getting that little like mental break from the space. It also gave our venue time to reset anything they need, and gave our AV team some time to have a rest. So I just think if you're an event organizer or have any control over your event's agenda, to think about where you could incorporate this. We purposely did lunch out of the room and then this walk and talk that turned into the surprise Pike Place thing right after lunch, because we as event people know most people get what I call like the itis, or just like the lull that happens after you eat and then sit. So we were trying to combat that by eating and then walking. I still think you need a lull. You'll have a lull somewhere, but it kind of helped combat some of that, I think, energy wise for attendees too.
Absolutely. And biology backs you up on that. It is beneficial. People who are being treated for diabetes, that is the first piece of advice they're given. After you eat, take some exercise, make sure to keep your blood flowing. It really, really does help physically and mentally to keep that under control. So it is, I would agree, pretty much a universally best policy if you can squeeze it in. And it doesn't have to be right away if you can't, make it happen, but something to combat that afternoon lull is, the combo of food and time and the sun crusting over, it all just gets to you. So are you two open to hear a little bit of possible areas to improve for next year?
Let's do it.
Always.
Feeling brave and strong. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the pieces I would say is, this is always the fact that we find out with events once it's too late, things that we've got to watch out and change for next year. So this is not criticism of poor planning necessarily. It's more about things to keep an eye out. For this year, our venue, it turned out that we had a lot of good accessibility and social accessibility options in the venue. The room design ended up not necessarily ideal for all body types, in terms of it being a tight squeeze and different types of chairs and seating arrangements. So that's something to keep an eye on. People with bigger bodies or not able to kind of shimmy down the walkways, things like that. So watching out for body type accessibility. Also having possibly a plan for hearing differences. We all got very excited in the morning with the get to know yous, especially, which we do in all formats, digital and in person. And it got loud right away. Most venues are going to struggle with that. And we've experienced that in different ways. But having some kind of conscientiousness of that, or a way to cope with that for people who need special access. It's not necessarily something you can put in your note before you go and have out there. And then little things like, rather than having the pronouns be little stickers, finding an alternative way that doesn't generate more trash for those. Right now, I know you have stickers that you're using up from the past, so we want to use before we, pick something new. No point in wasting the old ones, but that's a fun option to keep in mind for reducing plastic and reducing little pieces of trash. And then pop quiz, we had some Post-it notes. Do either of you know whether you got recyclable Post-it notes?
I Googled it, and yes, I got the Post-it brand super sticky notes, and they are indeed recyclable.
Yay!
That's what Post-it's saying. They are
perfect.
They can be recycled, is what it says in their sustainability section of this item on their website.
Great caveat. All recycling is dependent on your local municipality and what is capable to be recycled in your area, unless you're using a greater outside of the area resource like TerraCycle, who can take those items away and make sure they get to the right stream of processing. But that the pop quiz is because any combined material that have more than one ingredient in them are potentially not recyclable. So paper and adhesive means not automatically recyclable. You've got to double check. And Post-it has been getting better and better about making sure that the adhesive they use is not counterproductive to the recycling stream, so that you can recycle those. So good job. Good Googling, Logan. Love to see it. So I've got a couple of more things I'm following up with to finalize your audit, but A minus, I think you did so well. Any big takeaways you two want to review before we end our time with me?
I would say, well, like we said at the beginning, it really was, I think, so important to be able to have this in mind that you were going to be doing an audit because we were making different choices, I believe, because of it. Something as little as like the bowls that I bought for the hot chocolate toppings, I bought compostable bowls. They said they were compostable at least. Whereas but I spent more money on them too. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I could just get the cheaper stuff. But I was like, no, we're getting the bowls. We're doing the thing. It's just a small example. But I think for me, it changed my decisions because we were actually actively thinking about it. And I think a lot of event planners are actively thinking about sustainability, but it's because there was the challenge. There was the audit specifically that I was like, no, we're going to do it. So it's kind of an interesting thing for me. Logan, what would you say your takeaway is?
Yeah, I mean, we've learned the podcast, everything I do, I'm very externally motivated. So having you, Alycia, was very helpful. And yeah, I think we felt empowered to kind of make small tweaks where we could. But from our first year of doing the in-person day back in 24, I feel like we already were trying to, we've had to be the people throwing things out at the end of an event. And it's like, why do we put the year on this if it's an annual thing? There's certain things that I think we were already naturally doing, but it was really fun to get to learn where we could level up. And I think you had a good point with some of the info you needed from our venue was just like not in my normal checklist because I don't necessarily do full planning for people. But I think it was really, really helpful to have you kind of reminding me there are things that we can ask for and things that venues should have on hand to be able just to give you.
Awesome. I love that. And I think from our original call in preparation for the audit, you two do naturally drift in that way. I think the biggest improvement, other than continuing to have me looming over you, would be to have written out, other than, wanting your own personal well-being as the hosts to be first and foremost and have the economics work out so that you as a podcast can continue to host us because we love you and we want to be coming out, is just have it written out what your sustainability plans are so you have something to check against. And I think for everyone, if you are looking for that accountability, that's where it comes from, is having something to check against, whether it's your accountability professional or even just your own pledge to yourself.
Yes. Well, thank you, Alycia. We appreciate you so much. We will definitely put in that goals. I know that was our shortcoming that we were like, we didn't even have it as a goal. So we want to thank you for taking the time here and being a partner with us for this year's conference. And before we let you go, where can listeners find you to learn more about event sustainability?
Please do find me on LinkedIn under Alycia Drube, my name, or Positive Impact Event Consulting. I have my own podcast called Sustainable Events Dog Walk, which is 10 minutes a week about sustainability and other general ideas about events and event businesses. And I'm also on Instagram, Alycia M. Drube, if you like a more informal vibe, and AlyciaDrube.com. I'm everywhere under my name, so I look forward to connecting with you.
All right. Thank you so much, Alycia. She is one of our amazing conference partners, and that segues nicely into our big thank you. We wouldn't have been able to host the conference without the support of some of our amazing partners: Event Pro Suite, which is an event planning software; Kilbreth Events, auctioneers, MCs, and event pros; Event Badger for our amazing wooden event badges that you heard about; Labor Temple, which was our event venue and co-working space; Audio Engineers Northwest, who are audio experts and AV gurus and provided us all our audio for the conference; Pro Event Tips, which is an event management consulting company; Alycia and Positive Impact Consulting. She's a podcast host and sustainability consultant. And then our two companies, EP Events LLC, courtesy of Mary; Logan Strategy Group, courtesy of me. And again, we couldn't have done it without all of the support from you listeners. So we just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll keep you posted for what's next for the conference. But you can expect something in 2026 at the end of this year. So definitely keep your eyes peeled. We love a save the date. We love to get info out. So make sure you're paying attention.
Yes. So go to bettereventspod.com/conference. And if you are someone who attended the conference, you can click, there's a lovely button there for you to go access your replays from the virtual day, as well as any slides from the in-person day that speakers have given us. Those are all living on Swapcard. And then we also have a lovely button for you to register your interest for the 2026 conference. So as Mary mentioned, we do not have the dates yet for 2026, but we will be back and we'd love to let you be the first ones to know. So fill out that 2-minute form that just just gives us your email address, and we'll be sure to let you know when we have details for 2026. And Mary, you have our bonus tip this week.
I do. Okay, so it's the new year. There's lots of things I'm sure we're all working on. One of my tips today is to take the time to network with vendors and just to build those partnerships. But it's a good time of year to kind of reassess how can we work together better, specifically with vendors, and then perhaps there's like some deal or like agreement that you all can work out. So I just had the opportunity to meet with a vendor. I'm so excited about working with them more now because of it. And they were able to give us some really specific pricing that helps us advocate for them more. And so, yeah, it just was a really good partnership building relationship conversation. And I loved it. So, this is my encouragement to you to do the same. Reach out to some vendors, make those partnerships. It's a great time of year to do that.
Thanks, Mary. Love that bonus tip. Before we wrap up, we do want to tease we are coming soon with a 5-part workshop series about how to start an event planning business. It's going to be an on-demand, self-paced workshop because we're constantly getting this question from you guys in our DMs or to our email. And so we made a course about it. And it's about 5 hours of content where Mary and I are getting real about some of the nitty-gritty it takes to start your business. We have some real talk in there, lessons learned, hopefully to make it a little bit easier for you. So stay tuned. All of our socials and our emails will announce that shortly. But that brings us to the end of our episode. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Better Events Pod. You can send us an email at bettereventspod@gmail.com. You can connect with us directly on LinkedIn as well. Just let us know you heard about us from the podcast. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want more Better Events content, join our private community on Substack. As always, we want to thank you for listening, and we'll be back in your feeds again next Wednesday.